Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the NFL Draft Triple Take, brought to you by UPMC. I'm Mike Prisuta. He's Dale Lolley. He's Matt Williamson. If this is your first time finding us, where you been? If you've been following along, you know the drill by now. We're going over every position, group by group, in advance of the NFL Draft, April the 27th through the 29th in Kansas City. We're looking at these positions not once, but twice. We've made our list, and we are checking it a second time.
And we will find out who's naughty and nice.
Yes. And who can play, hopefully. We're taking a look at the defensive tackles today. Dale, this is always an interesting one for me because is the guy a defensive tackle or a defensive end? And if he's a defensive end, does that make him an edge? And what do you actually call him? You got to sort it out somehow. How'd you sort it out?
Blurred lines there, Mike. And you know, after our first take through this thing, the first guy I'm going to put on the board, I'm going to go from 5 to 1. The first guy I'm going to put on the board here is exactly that guy. Is he a defensive end? Because that's what Adi Adebaware played at Northwestern.
And to emphasize your point, he's on my list for edge.
Yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
But he's 6'1", 285 pounds. You know, is he a classic edge guy? No. Is he a classic interior guy? No. But is he a football player? Yeah.
I think so,
yeah,
too,
he's a football player. At number 4, I've got another guy here out of Bucky Badger who is a classic defensive tackle, and that's Keanu Benton. Just a big plugger in the middle, real heavy hands. When he gets his hands on guys, he just smashes them like he's the Hulk. At 3, I'm going with, where's he at on here? Kalijah Kancey out of Pitt. Again, a little undersized. Everybody wants to compare him to Aaron Donald. He's not Aaron Donald. I mean, that's just unfair to the kid. But I think he can be pretty good at the NFL level. Again, a little undersized. That's where the comparisons to Donald come from, along with being from Pitt. But very productive. Then you've got Brian Bresee out of Clemson. Love this kid. The backstory's great. The way he fought through the things that he fought through last year. I don't even know how he played football last year.
Adversity.
You
talk about adversity there, and a good football player. And then Jalen Carter and a little bit of his own personal adversity that he has brought upon himself, but just an outstanding football player.
You know, it's I'll pick up where you left off. He's still number 1. Carter is on my list as well, but there is a little bit to digest since
there's some things to unpack there.
Since Georgia won that national championship.
Oh, without question. And teams will bring him into their facilities, sit down with them, get to know the kid. And to be honest, as a football player and as a prospect, he's as good as I've ever seen at the defensive tackle position, or as good as anyone in the last 10 years for sure. He's magnificent. He
has definitely had his moments, although the workout was less than ideal as well. Mm-hmm. I have Adebaware out of Northwestern as an edge guy. As we've talked about, there's some blurred lines. Very impressive. Think he's a great player. He'd be coming off the edge for me. Dale, I've got also Benton as you had him. 4. Kancey was my 5. Another guy who really I think is going to have people talking right up until draft day or draft night, as it were. He's having a really good offseason and maybe shining some light on the very good season that he had because he's worked out so well. 3rd on my list, Gervon Dexter Sr. from Florida. And then the Clemson kid to me is one of the rising players, not just at his position, but in this draft. I think he had some things he needed to reestablish based on all that adversity he's faced the last couple of years that we referenced earlier, but I think he's come through it all with flying colors. I think he is looking now like the type of player everybody thought he was when he was coming out of high school.
Yeah, 100%. Let's stick with Bresee real quick because you mentioned him coming out of high school. 5-star recruit, and on a great Clemson defense as a true freshman, he was their best player. So if you watch that tape and you believe that's who he is, you could get a real steal because I think these two kind of stand alone as potential real difference maker, every down guys. I think Carter's just phenomenal. I mean, he's as good a D-tackle prospect as I can remember. He has it all. When he doesn't want to get blocked, he doesn't get blocked. So these two are really strong for me.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, but were we not watching the SEC title game in
We were.
Atlanta in advance of the Steelers-Falcons game, and did not Carter at one point pick up the other quarterback and just kind of hold him
Yeah,
up?
like it was a lunch pail.
Okay,
Right.
what do I do with this now? Do you want me to tackle him, not tackle him? They just blew the whistles.
And the
came
thing
in.
about Jalen Carter, guys, is he doesn't look big at all. He looks like he's a linebacker. He's built like a linebacker, and he moves like that. Yeah, he's just a powerful guy.
I mean, everyone knows the Georgia defense is loaded with players, but if you were watching Jordan Davis last year or any of those front seven guys, you couldn't keep your eyes off this guy. Waiting for this year is unbelievable.
Much like Will Anderson.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So Benton and Dexter, I like quite a bit, but they were just misses for me. Adebawore, as you guys mentioned, positionless football. I don't know where to line him up on the D-line. He's done a lot out of a two-point stance coming off the edge. Super smart, very versatile.
Tested through the roof.
Extremely athletic. So I think you just line him up all over the place, move him around, find matchups you like for him. And I'm not sure what room he'll report to when he gets there, but that depends on each team, in my
Your
opinion.
defensive room.
Yeah,
would be the
right. Defensive wrecking ball. Cansey's also a wrecking ball. He won't fit every scheme. You know, he's smaller. He's built on quickness. Gets off the ball extremely well, leverage, really well coached by the folks next door. But he's undersized. You know, I mean, not everyone's looking for someone his size in the middle of their defense.
But that scheme stuff's starting to get blurred too, isn't
Especially
it?
on passing down.
Because everybody's got a sub package and you can play anywhere.
And 1st and 10's a passing down.
Yeah.
You know. So, last one is a little bit of a throwback, more nose tackle type, is Mazzie Smith. And Bruce Feldman from The Athletic puts out this freak list before every season. He was #1 on the freak list, like legendary athletic tester, big, thick nose tackle type. Gonna need some technique work and things of that nature, but you get him with the right D-line coach, he could be an impact guy.
Matt, let's keep it with you. In addition to the names we see here, who almost made this list, or who would make your best of the rest list?
Well, I think a name we have to at least bring up is the big fellow from Baylor, Ika. I mean, a couple years ago, I think he would be in everyone's top 5, but as you mentioned, you know, the game's changing so quickly that the big stay-at-home nose tackles that just eat space and dominate two people aren't quite as trendy as they used to be, because they
6'2" and 7'8", 335.
335.
To give a little context.
And I think he trimmed down to 335. Yeah, but he's a space eater.
Yeah, skipped lunch a couple of days. I think one of the other guys you have to mention too, fellas, is the kid out of Bowling Green, who's a classic, 3-4 defensive end. His name's escaping me right now. That's
Brooks.
Brooks, yeah, Brooks. 6'5"-ish, 300 pounds. Again, a MAC guy, so maybe not quite the press that some of these other guys have here, but certainly a good football player who is active with his hands and can do some things for you.
Yeah, a couple guys that have caught my attention in addition to the names we've discussed. Gerard Clark from Coastal Carolina, 6'3" and 5'8", 334. Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, he has a lot to say about these guys on Twitter, and I respect his opinion. And he has talked about just how athletic he looks in his stance, Clark, and what a mover he is. Not just a plugger. He can move around the football field. Scott Matlock from Boise State dominated the NFLPA Bowl for what that's worth.
Okay.
I mean,
something.
When you're from a smaller school, you're supposed to go to these all-star games and play against perceived higher caliber competition and dominate. He seems to be a guy who can rush from anywhere on the field. And if you're looking for plugger, P.J. Mustafa from Penn State. James Franklin says nobody runs past this guy.
Tough guy.
So that's just a couple that are on my radar. Oh, one other guy I wanted to mention. Dante Stills from West Virginia. Looks pretty athletic to me. Can penetrate. He's got the quicks. And oh, by the way, the bloodlines, his father Gary.
Father, brothers,
Right.
the whole deal.
Yeah. So I
Grew up with it.
I think that stuff, I mean, it's not
Oh,
a
it matters.
rubber stamp, but I think it's an advantage.
Yeah, I think definitely is because you know how to get there. Now, what you do with it once you get there is up to you, but you at least know the path.
Yeah, and I thought Mike Tomlin put that in a really good context. I think it was out at the NFL annual meeting, if I'm remembering correctly. He talked about, for those guys, if you got a brother or a father precede you into the NFL, it's not a dream, it's a destiny. It's okay, what do I do to get there? Because that's where I'm going.
Right.
It's not, oh, gee, I think I can. It's, I know I can.
And you understand the daily demands of what it is to be an NFL player. And there's things off the field that you have to deal with that are new if you haven't seen that before.
That's going to do it for our further review on the interior defensive lineman. Thanks for finding us however you found us. Keep checking those Steelers social media platforms because we are going to continue running this stuff down position by position. We're going to go over every position twice. We got another mock draft in store for you in advance of the NFL draft, April the 27th through the 29th in Kansas City. So keep coming back for more of the same. Until next time, for Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley, I'm Mike Prisuta. Thanks for finding us this time for the NFL Draft Triple Take, brought to you by UPMC.